Hi everyone, my name is Katya Petrikevich and I'm extremely happy to be here with you and to share the local labs experience with you. I am a co-founder and international director of Participation Factory, and I'm also an international expert on community and citizen engagement and public participation. So today I will be your guide into the world of public participation methods for better planning and decision-making processes. So before we start, I would like to talk to you about how planning or process design or decision making is traditionally done. And it usually relies on technical data or data that comes from statistical offices or any data that comes from the usage of government infrastructure or social services or some other technical infrastructure and services. It is incredibly useful. It can tell you a lot about how community works and operates, but it lacks the human factor and that live data can provide. And live data is really what we are looking for through participation and citizen engagement. Live data is information about real needs, pain points, and experiences of people who are the living experts affected by the life in this community or by specific topics and agendas that you might be exploring. So, for example, even though you might think that the person on the street who's just passing by and living on this particular street or working on this particular street doesn't have a lot to say about sustainable development of this district, you are not right. This person is someone who is affected by this issue every day. This is the person who will be able to tell you what sustainability means for them and for this environment. And so their data can be incredibly useful for you, even though this is not a technical, robust data. Then you have another layer of community. These are stakeholders, and by virtue of their special interest or their work, they have a little bit more knowledge, but also a little bit more of a personal agenda that drives their interest. And so the data that comes from them is going to be more technical, it's going to be more complex. And those are the people who might already have some specific experiences working on the subject or interacting with it in some way or another. So they might already have some projects or solutions that you might capitalize on. And finally, you have experts. Those are the people who have very technical knowledge because they have either academic or professional experience in the field. They can be the ones who will help you go through nitty-gritty details of the project and the proposals, review the ideas of other people, but sometimes they might be a little bit disattached from the reality, and the quality of the live data, so to say, is going to be a bit low because it's biased by their professionality and by their high level of experience. But don't be afraid of public participation, because at the moment I know you might be thinking that, oh my god, I will have to engage everyone at every stage and it's going to be super messy, I'm going to be overwhelmed with information. But fear not, public participation is about structured engagement. It's about knowing who to engage, when in the process, and in what way. And of course, there are different levels of public participation that vary based on the level of maturity that you have and also on the level of maturity of the general public. Because let's agree that if the person has never been included in a participatory fashion into anything, it makes no sense to overwhelm them with super complex assignments, let's say, to co-design and co-create in a deliberative manner an agenda on sustainable development of the city. That will only overwhelm them. They're going to be lost. They're going to be very confused. They're going to frustrate them and you and anybody else included in the process. And at the end of the day, it will only disengage people and will prevent them from participating in the future. So before launching into participation, it's important to assess where you stand and what you can afford, both in terms of resources, but also in terms of expertise to handle within your project. So here are 5 stages of public participation based on the goal. The first one is truly essential and I would say mandatory. It's the inform stage. At this level, you just provide people with information about the process, about the rules, and about the possible or desired outcomes. It helps to create transparency, it helps to engage people, and it builds this trust and the foundation required to get data from the people. The next level is consult. And at this level, you are the one who is designing the solution, designing the process, and coming up with the ideas. But the public is providing you with feedback that you can later on incorporate to enhance your own ideas. From this level, you can move to the level of involve, when you're directly asking people to contribute to a specific degree in different modules or in very limited segments of your proposal or your idea or your project. And so again, you are the one who is designing the larger framework and they are the one who are working with the modules and smaller things within it. On the next stage, you can invite people to collaborate with you, which means they are truly partners in the process and they are working on a larger picture and a larger framework with you rather than small little details. And finally, when you feel like you are at that stage of the maturity and when you feel like that the general public is prepared to take on this huge responsibility, you can empower people and place a decision-making power in them. You can basically allow them to be the ones who show what solutions, what projects and ideas are going to move forward, and they are the true drivers within the process. As I said, this is a huge responsibility and you really need to prepare the public and yourself to successfully implement this type of public participation. As you can see, and you can already think of, and I already mentioned, there are plenty of benefits of public participation and managing your process and your project in a participatory fashion. And first and foremost, that I already noted, is through participation and inclusion, there is more data about real needs of people, which means you can plan better and you make better decisions because they reflect actual pain points that the community has. It also helps you to save resources because you're truly targeting what is required based on this data. And because of all of this, you increase the general levels of satisfaction with the decision-making processes, with the design of your project, and also you increase the quality of life because, as I already stressed, you are really responding to the needs, you're really responding to what is not working based on the data that comes from people. Also, participation fosters inclusion. It creates a sense of community belonging, and that is what makes communities stronger, more democratic, and more transparent. And aside from the transparency, participation also increases trust. It helps to build the trust that is not there yet between different parts of population, but also between the community and the decision makers. Also, because planning and decision making provides space for inclusion, for deliberation, for conversation, and it also creates this data-based type of decision-making process. It creates higher buy-in and less conflict, and it provides space for really meaningful dialogue and negotiation instead of pure conflict. And finally, I want to stress that data generated throughout the participation process can be used far beyond your project. And you can share it with other actors so they can use it and benefit from it in the future. So it's really kind of a recyclable material. And lastly, in this last minute of my short presentation, I want to walk you through a standard participatory process structure. So the first stage is setting the rules. You always start with setting up the rules, communicating them clearly so that there are strict expectations and people know when and how to engage, and they can also assess whether they want to engage on the basis of whether it's worth their time and effort. On the next step, you usually do proposals. Again, it can be the public who is coming up with the proposals and ideas, or it can be you who is receiving feedback from the public, or it can be a combination of the two. And then on the next stage, you move towards deliberation, where you review all the different ideas and you take the best parts and pieces, you combine them, you enhance them to create something truly amazing. Afterwards, you move towards technical analysis to see what ideas are feasible, which ones are going to be moving forward, and which ones are not. And afterwards, you go through a decision-making process. Again, as I said before, it can be you being the decision-making group within your process and project, or you can invite the general public to participate in the decision-making. And then you move towards implementation of whatever solution you decide to go forward with. And it's important that during this stage, you closely monitor the implementation, you clearly communicate to people and to every other participant how it's going and why there are any possible delays or changes. And afterwards, you should really look into the process and evaluate it, what worked, what didn't, how you can improve on that, and how you can benefit on the outcomes. And after this, you redesign the process and do it again. So that was it for my short presentation. I hope it inspired you to think about your project in a more participatory way, and it opened a window of opportunities on how you can benefit from the data that can come from the general public, to make your process more democratic, to make it better reflect the needs of your community, and to help you achieve the best possible outcome for your community and the world community at large. Thank you so much again for having me, and have a wonderful experience with local labs. Bye.